If you're in your 60 seconds or older, and every morning starts with aching joints or stiff knees, I want you to know you're not imagining it, you're not weak, and you're certainly not alone. This is Dr. James Porter, and I've spent over 3 decades walking alongside patients battling arthritis. One of the most painful truths I've seen? Many seniors are unknowingly making their joint pain worse, not with sugar, not with red meat, but with vegetables they believed were helping them heal. Yes, vegetables. You see, arthritis affects over 58 million adults in the U.S., and that number climbs sharply after age 60. For many, pain medications only go so far. They change their mattresses, their shoes, their routines, but the stiffness, swelling, and burning joints never seem to fully let go. What most people don't realize is that certain vegetables contain compounds that can actually trigger inflammation, especially in older adults with arthritis, gout, or autoimmune joint conditions. Imagine this. You wake up in the morning, determined to eat healthy, so you toss spinach into your smoothie or pile tomatoes onto your salad. By evening, your knees are throbbing again, and you wonder what went wrong, never suspecting the very food you thought was helping you may be silently fueling the fire. In this video, we're going to uncover the top 10 vegetables that could be secretly sabotaging your joint health and how to identify which ones are hurting your body specifically. Now, I'm not here to tell you to throw out all your veggies. Far from it. But I am here to help you reconnect with your body, to listen carefully to what it's telling you, and to make informed, gentle choices that bring relief, not more pain. So if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, but your joints still hurt, this might be the piece of the puzzle you've been missing. And if you're new here, or just finding this helpful, consider subscribing. I share weekly, science-backed videos to help you live with less pain and more peace, especially after 60. Let's begin. So, let's start with 2 vegetables that often sit proudly on the superfood list: spinach and mushrooms. They look innocent, even virtuous. But for many people living with arthritis, especially gout, these healthy choices can quietly make things worse. Let's begin with spinach. Spinach is packed with vitamins A, K, iron, magnesium, and plant-based antioxidants. Sounds wonderful, right? But here's what many people don't know. Spinach is also high in purines. Now, purines are natural substances found in many foods. When we digest them, the body breaks them down into uric acid. In healthy amounts, uric acid isn't a problem. But when it builds up, whether because of genetics, kidney function, or diet, it can crystallize in the joints, triggering the sudden and excruciating pain we know as a gout attack. According to a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, diets rich in purines significantly increase the risk of recurrent gout attacks, especially in older adults. 1 cup of cooked spinach contains roughly 57 milligrams of purines, which may not sound like much, but in someone who is already purine sensitive or has impaired uric acid clearance, it adds up quickly, especially if eaten daily. I had a patient, Ron, a retired teacher, in his 60 seconds. He was doing everything right, walking daily, cutting out red meat, even skipping dessert. But his gout kept flaring up, mostly in his big toe and ankle. When we looked closely at his food journal, he was blending spinach into his smoothies every morning. We removed it for a few weeks, and just like that, the swelling reduced, and the flare-ups became less frequent. Now, let's talk about mushrooms. Mushrooms don't belong to the nightshade family, and they're low in calories while being rich in selenium, vitamin D, and antioxidants. But just like spinach, they're also high in purines, especially certain types like shiitake and portobello. In people with gout, this can have the same effect: increased uric acid leading to those glass shard-like crystals that tear through the joint lining. To be clear, not everyone with arthritis has gout, and not everyone with gout reacts to purines in the same way. But if you're someone who's had swollen, red, painful joints, especially in your feet, ankles, or knees, it's worth looking at how often you're eating these superfoods. You don't have to swear them off forever, but moderation and awareness can be powerful. Try swapping spinach with lower purine greens, like kale, romaine, or Swiss chard. As for mushrooms, stick to smaller portions, and avoid canned or processed types, which tend to concentrate purines even further. Remember, arthritis management isn't about restriction. It's about learning how your body responds and making gentle shifts that lead to real relief. Next, we'll look at 2 more unexpected troublemakers, ones you probably have in your fridge or pantry right now, and no one's talking about them. Stay with me. Following spinach and mushrooms, let's turn to 2 more foods that often fly under the radar: beets and canned vegetables. One is known for its vibrant color and earthy sweetness. The other is found in nearly every kitchen pantry, but both can be surprisingly problematic for joint health if we're not careful. Let's begin with beets. Beets are rich in folate, potassium, fiber, and natural compounds called betalains, which are known for their anti-inflammatory properties. That sounds like a joint-friendly food, doesn't it? But here's the twist. Beets are also high in oxalates, naturally occurring compounds that can bind to calcium and form crystals, especially in the kidneys, and possibly in joints. In individuals who are already prone to kidney stones or inflammatory arthritis, oxalates may exacerbate symptoms by contributing to systemic inflammation. A 2017 review published in Clinical Rheumatology highlighted the link between oxalate metabolism and inflammation, suggesting that in susceptible individuals, a high oxalate diet could worsen pain, especially in the presence of metabolic or renal dysfunction. I once worked with a woman named Teresa, age 68, who loved roasting beets with olive oil. It was her go-to side dish. But despite an overall clean diet, her joint flares, particularly in the wrists and hands, became more frequent. Once we temporarily removed beets from her meals and increased her hydration and magnesium intake, her flare-ups became much more manageable. If you enjoy beets, you don't necessarily need to cut them out entirely. But if you have recurring joint swelling, a history of kidney issues, or inflammation that doesn't seem to settle, consider moderating your intake. And when you do enjoy them, roasting or steaming may reduce the oxalate content slightly. Now, let's talk about canned vegetables. Convenient, affordable, and long-lasting. But when it comes to arthritis, there's a hidden danger: sodium. Many canned vegetables are loaded with added salt and preservatives used to extend shelf life. And high sodium intake has been linked to increased inflammation and worsened joint symptoms, particularly in older adults with pre-existing inflammatory conditions. In fact, a study published in the Journal of Clinical Hypertension found that high sodium diets were associated with elevated C-reactive protein, CRP levels, a key marker of systemic inflammation. Sodium doesn't just affect blood pressure. It can cause fluid retention, which places added pressure on joints, increases stiffness, and intensifies pain. Combine that with hidden additives like MSG or sulfites, and you've got a recipe that may quietly fuel inflammation from the inside out. If canned vegetables are a staple in your home, here's what I recommend. Choose low sodium or no salt added options whenever possible, and always rinse canned vegetables thoroughly under cold water before cooking or eating. This simple step can remove up to 40% of the added sodium, according to the USDA. Better yet, when possible, switch to frozen vegetables. They're just as convenient, retain most of their nutrients, and rarely contain added salt or preservatives. Sometimes, the foods that feel easiest or even healthiest can be quietly working against us. But the good news is, just by adjusting how we choose, cook, and prepare them, we can turn the tide. Coming up next, we'll look at a fiery favorite one that may surprise you, especially if you've been reaching for it to boost your metabolism. Stay tuned. After exploring hidden inflammation triggers like beets and canned vegetables, let's turn our attention to a food that many consider both healthy and flavorful: peppers. Whether sweet bell peppers or spicy chili varieties, they brighten up meals and are loaded with nutrients. But if you're living with arthritis, these colorful favorites may come with a catch. All peppers, red, green, yellow, and hot chili, belong to the nightshade family, just like tomatoes, eggplants, and potatoes. These plants contain a compound called solanine, which has been linked to joint inflammation in sensitive individuals. Solanine acts as a natural pesticide in plants. In most people, it's harmless. But in individuals with inflammatory arthritis, autoimmune joint disease, or heightened immune reactivity, solanine may irritate the gut lining and immune system, triggering pain and stiffness. While clinical evidence is still debated, a 2020 review in Frontiers in Immunology highlighted how certain glycoalkaloids like solanine can stimulate pro-inflammatory pathways, especially in people with existing immune imbalances. That means for some, a bowl of roasted peppers may be a recipe for stiff joints the next morning. And then there's capsaicin, the compound responsible for the heat in spicy peppers. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, capsaicin is used in topical creams to relieve joint pain. It works by temporarily blocking pain receptors, giving relief to aching knees, fingers, and shoulders. But on the other hand, when consumed in large quantities, especially by mouth, capsaicin can irritate the gut, and in some individuals, promote systemic inflammation, particularly if their gut lining is already compromised. I remember a patient, Harold, age 72, who had switched to a plant-based diet rich in colorful vegetables including sautéed bell peppers and spicy jalapenos. But within weeks, his finger joints became so swollen he couldn't open jars or button his shirt. After reviewing his food log, we removed nightshades, including the peppers. Within 10 days, his swelling started to ease. It wasn't magic, it was just individual sensitivity. To be fair, peppers do have benefits. They're rich in vitamin C, beta-carotene, and antioxidants that, in theory, support joint health. For many people, they cause no issues at all. But here's the bottom line. If you're dealing with unexplained flares, waking up stiff, or feeling worse after healthy meals, peppers might be worth investigating. Try going without them for 2 to 3 weeks and keep a symptom diary. If you notice improvement, you may have found one of your personal triggers. And if you're missing that flavor or crunch, consider non-nightshade alternatives like carrots, zucchini, or even sliced cucumber, gentle on the joints, easy on the body. Up next, we'll look at 2 everyday staples, especially common in Southern and Latin cuisines, that seem harmless but may be tipping the inflammatory scale without you realizing it. Don't miss it. If you're following along and thinking, well, I don't eat many peppers or nightshades, so maybe I'm in the clear, I wish it were that simple. But the truth is, some of the most common vegetables on American dinner plates, especially in Southern cooking, may be quietly tipping the inflammatory balance. I'm talking about corn and okra. Let's start with corn. Corn isn't part of the nightshade family, and it doesn't contain purines or oxalates. On the surface, it seems safe. But here's the issue. Corn is high in omega-6 fatty acids, particularly when consumed as corn oil or in processed forms like corn chips, tortillas, or cereals. Now, omega-6 seconds aren't bad on their own. In fact, your body needs them for cell function. But when omega-6 intake dramatically outweighs omega-3 intake, which is common in Western diets, the result is a pro-inflammatory state in the body. According to a paper published in Nutrients 2016, the typical American diet has a 20-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats. Ideally, that number should be closer to 4-to-1 or even 2-to-1. This imbalance is a known contributor to chronic inflammation, and for arthritis sufferers, it means more joint pain, swelling, and stiffness. And it's not just the corn you eat directly. It's the corn hidden in processed foods, corn syrups, even salad dressings. You may not realize how much of it you're actually consuming. If you enjoy corn, moderation is key. Choose whole corn on the cob, steamed or grilled, rather than fried or processed options. And more importantly, try to increase your intake of omega-3 rich foods like salmon, chia seeds, flax seeds, or walnuts to help restore the balance. Now, let's talk about okra. This slimy yet beloved vegetable is a staple in many Southern and African American households. It's rich in vitamin C and K and contains antioxidants that, in theory, should help reduce inflammation. So where's the problem? Okra is high in fructans, a type of carbohydrate that can be difficult to digest, especially for people with sensitive digestive systems. In these individuals, fructans ferment in the gut, leading to gas, bloating, and systemic inflammation, which can, in turn, worsen arthritis symptoms. Okra also contains oxalates, the same compound found in beets and spinach. In people prone to kidney issues or calcium imbalance, oxalates can increase the risk of kidney stones or promote low-grade inflammation in the joints. I remember working with Samuel, a 4-year-old who loved okra stew. After years of chronic knee pain that didn't respond well to medications, we tried cutting back on high fructan and oxalate foods, okra included. Within a month, he reported less morning stiffness and even fewer trips to the medicine cabinet. If you suspect okra might be aggravating your symptoms, try swapping it for green beans, asparagus, or zucchini, all low fructan, low oxalate alternatives that are gentler on digestion and joints. Arthritis is not always about the obvious triggers. Sometimes, it's the quiet, everyday foods, the ones you've eaten for decades, that sneak up on you. But now that you know, you can start testing, observing, and adjusting with more confidence. In the next part, we'll explore perhaps the most debated group of vegetables when it comes to arthritis, the infamous trio of tomatoes, potatoes, and eggplants. It's time to set the record straight. We've talked about some surprising culprits so far, but now it's time to address what may be the most controversial group of vegetables in the arthritis world: tomatoes, potatoes, and eggplants. They're part of the nightshade family, and while they're full of nutrients, for some people, they may be fueling joint pain instead of fighting it. Let's start with tomatoes. Rich in lycopene, vitamin C, and antioxidants, tomatoes are often praised for their anti-inflammatory benefits. But they also contain solanine, the same natural compound found in other nightshades. For most people, solanine is harmless. But in those with sensitive immune systems or autoimmune arthritis, it may act as a pro-inflammatory irritant, especially in the gut. The connection isn't entirely black and white, but anecdotal reports are strong. In fact, a survey by the Arthritis Nightshades Research Foundation found that over 70% of participants with rheumatoid arthritis reported reduced symptoms after eliminating nightshades, especially tomatoes. I had a patient named Ruth, 67, retired librarian, healthy eater. She loved tomato soup and often added fresh tomatoes to her salads. But she also struggled with constant wrist and ankle pain, even though her lab tests were stable. When we trialed a tomato-free diet for 4 weeks, the results shocked her. The swelling in her joints visibly reduced, and her morning stiffness went from barely moving to a manageable ache. Then there's potatoes, another comfort food many of us grew up with. Mashed, baked, or fried, they're everywhere. Like tomatoes, potatoes contain solanine and can trigger inflammatory responses in people with arthritis. What's tricky is that potatoes also provide potassium and vitamin C, which support joint function. But again, it comes down to individual response. If your arthritis flares after meals that include potatoes, or if you feel more stiff the next morning, it's worth running a personal experiment. Try swapping in sweet potatoes, which aren't part of the nightshade family and are rich in beta-carotene, an anti-inflammatory antioxidant. And finally, eggplants, known for their glossy skin and unique texture. They're used in everything from Mediterranean stews to Asian stir-fries. Like their cousins, they contain solanine, and some people report stiffness, joint heat, or swelling after eating them. But eggplants also contain niacin, a powerful antioxidant found in the purple skin. This compound protects cells from oxidative damage, including cartilage cells in the joints. So, should you cut them all out completely? Not necessarily. The real answer is test and observe. Try removing nightshades from your diet for 2-3 weeks. Keep a symptom journal. Track how your joints feel. Then, reintroduce them one at a time. You may find that tomatoes cause issues, but eggplant doesn't, or vice versa. Arthritis isn't just about diagnosis. It's about personal triggers, and your body often gives subtle or not so subtle clues when something's not working. Up next, we'll tie everything together, and I'll show you how to make simple, gentle changes in your kitchen that can lead to powerful changes in how your joints feel every single day. After walking through all 10 of these common vegetables, one thing becomes clear. There's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to arthritis and diet. Some of these foods are packed with nutrients. Others are quick, affordable, or tied to years of family tradition. But for people living with joint pain, even the most wholesome-looking plate can hide ingredients that quietly prolong stiffness, swelling, or discomfort. The good news? You don't need to overhaul your diet overnight. You don't need to fear every tomato or measure every spoon of corn. What you do need, and what I encourage every patient to embrace, is awareness. Start by tuning in to how your body feels after certain meals. Keep a simple food and symptom journal for a couple of weeks. Write down what you ate and how your joints felt the next morning. Over time, you'll begin to see patterns that even the best blood test might miss. If you discover that certain vegetables consistently trigger pain, give yourself permission to pause them. You're not quitting healthy foods. You're choosing healing. And healing doesn't mean restriction. It means replacing pain with possibility. Swapping inflammation triggers for nourishing alternatives. Sweet potatoes instead of white potatoes. Kale instead of spinach. Fresh, lightly cooked veggies instead of canned. Little changes, made consistently, can lead to mornings that feel lighter, joints that feel freer, and days that no longer begin with dread. I've seen it happen again and again, not from medications alone, but from people like you making informed, gentle decisions in their kitchens every day. So if you've made it this far in the video, thank you. Truly. It tells me you're not giving up on your body. You're still listening to it. And that's one of the most powerful things you can do. If this video has helped you in any way, I'd love it if you gave it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, or haven't already, consider subscribing to Golden Health. We share weekly videos to help you live with less pain, more energy, and greater clarity, especially in this season of life after 60. And if you've discovered certain foods that trigger or relieve your arthritis, share them in the comments below. You never know who you might help. Your plate has power, and so do you.